Two friends meet up to drink some beers and talk about past times. Not yesterday, but long ago, it's scandals, wars and crimes. From Stalin's reign to Prohibition, Tudors, Pompey, Bush and NASA's mission, Edison's bulk, Genghis Khan's rise to victory. Forget your old teacher, it's time for Pint-Sized History.
Hi there, and welcome to the Pint-Sized History podcast. I'm Joe.
And I'm Zack.
And we're back for our 26th episode of the Pint-Sized History podcast. I know, 26. I realised last episode that we didn't mention that we'd reached a quarter century pods, mate. That's pretty impressive, isn't it?
I think we're in like the top 1% of podcasts for longevity now, I think.
Is that right?
Well, it's like if you get to 10 episodes, you're in the top 10%. And I think if you get to another 10 episodes, you're in the top like 1% or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there must be so many podcasts that they create one and then just don't do it ever again after that. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Good chat.
Good chat, anyway. Well, we're starting this off with a zinger. Right, it's our 26th episode, and it's also the fourth time we're doing a Rulers and Leaders episode as well, which is the name that Zack hates so much, where we talk about someone either from the past or present that is, you know, the leader of a country or ruler or whatever, and the journey that they go to, their life and all that stuff. The previous ones, can you name the three before?
Yeah, Henry V, Alexander the Great, and Oda Nobunaga.
The first one.
Yeah, founder of Great Unifier of Japan.
That's the first of three great unifiers.
First three,
come on,
alongside
give,
Ieyasu.
Ieyasu, and the other one, Higamoto.
That just sounds completely fucking racist.
It's similar.
Higamoto. Hideyoshi.
Hideyoshi. See, I was close. Sorry, Japan.
Higamoto.
This is the first time that we're doing someone that's not only currently alive, but is still in power of their nation. Which means that this podcast might be a bit difficult to try to be as objective as possible because, you know, it's hard to not turn this into a politics chat when we're talking about someone that is literally the leader right now of one of the biggest nations in the world.
You've kind of teased what I'm going to talk about today, unfortunately. But
well, that's not unfortunate. You could guess.
Just take the wind out of my sails, will you? Tell them all. I'm talking about.
Honestly,
actually, first, before I say what I'm talking about today, Joe, why don't you tell me who do you think are the most powerful men in the world right now? I
would say Trump, but then I'd say Xi very close behind it. Also, if the metaphorical wind is getting out of your sails for that comment, then mate, you need some stronger sails. That's outrageous. so light.
I got linen sails.
It's been blown about the place. For goodness sake.
Yeah. So most powerful men. There's no right answer to this. Open-ended question. I would say Xi Jinping most powerful man, Donald Trump second most powerful man. And then probably put Putin third.
May I say, probably Putin third as well. May I say, I disagree. I think Trump is still the most powerful man. However, and we're already going into politics on our history podcast. However, I do think by the end of Trump's term, I think that might have swapped. I do think, because right now, the destabilization of everything just means I could see Xi overtaking within a few years. But no, for me right now, it would be Trump.
For context, we recorded this usually 2 weeks before the episode comes out. And this is coming just after the US have launched bunker-busting strikes against the Iranian nuclear facilities.
Yeah, we're going to date this podcast straight away. But yeah, he's absolutely right. Last night, so we're filming this on the same day, basically, that the US bunker buster flew over some nuclear sites in Iran. Like Fordo, and so the world is in a very, very weird position right now, right as we're about to talk about one of the main players in geopolitics. But we're not going to talk about politics, eh?
No, we're talking about the
history.
Xi Jinping today, or Xi Jinping.
Buzzing. But before we do, Zack, don't we have a sponsor?
We do. Of course we do.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
That's right, Pint.
I'm so ashamed of myself.
Oh, did you actually forget? Oh. You actually forgot?
No. Crate, of course I didn't forget Crate.
No, who could with delicious beers like these?
And this beer is so delicious. It's just a hoppy, yeasty, malty, barley delight. I thoroughly enjoy it. I'm going to have a sip right now. Oh, that just hits a spot. My throat got a bit clogged up. Not from the drink. It's very hot.
Well, you're having the lager this time, are you?
Yes,
not?
we swapped.
We swapped. I'm having the hazy. Or haze.
You don't sound like you're really enthusiastic about it.
It's not in here. It's in here, so I haven't actually tasted it yet. All right. Well, am I doing one as well?
Yeah, do taste test. Go on. Because you're trying the hazy. I've got you got the lager this time.
Oh yeah. No, that is certainly hazy.
Yeah,
and I like it.
This is definitely a lager.
I'm not gonna lie though. I think I prefer the lager.
I also actually prefer the lager. After having the lager. And
get both
really
and try
good
both for yourself. With what code, Zack?
Pint-Size 15, Pint-Size 15,
1-5.
Pint-Size 15,
1-5.
PINT, SSNED, 1-5.
Nice.
And the lager is truly scrumptious. I actually hadn't had the lager before literally a couple of days ago, and it's
like it,
bloody scrumptious.
Yeah, I really like it. To be fair, I actually really like this as well.
If I was listening to a history podcast right now, and I was thinking, I'd really love a beer, do you know what I'd do?
You go on the website.
I'd go on the Crate Brewery website and go buy some.
Well, but you'd put in the code first,
yeah, of
right?
course. You have to put in the code. Yeah,
but then after that, you'd get some
yeah,
bits.
of course. I want 50% off, don't I?
And also to mention, this is going to be the final episode of season 2. Zach and I have had the best time filming season 2, but like with the end of season 1, it is a lot of effort to continue pumping out edit and all the reels and stuff, and we both have our jobs anyway and things that we're doing, so we find it difficult to not fall behind, essentially, and we just wanted a little bit of a break just so we can recalibrate, think of any new ideas.
Absolutely.
So it won't be like last time, it won't be a long break. I can't imagine it being particularly long because we really enjoy what we're doing, and we're reaching some amazing milestones. Not only was it our 25th episode just last episode, but we're almost reaching whatever it is, 10,000 on TikTok, which is really nice, and we're continuously growing on stuff like Spotify and Apple, so we're shocked we're not even a year in, and we're shocked at how much traction we're gaining, and it's really nice to see.
Not even necessarily traction, just the amount of love that we're getting from it from people that are watching it. I'm getting people come up to me who know me or who have listened to the podcast or have seen some of our TikToks going, I really, really enjoy your podcast, and they're like, I regularly listen to it. And we're like, really? Yesterday
happened with yesterday.
Yeah, just Joe and I were at a friend's house for a FIFA tournament, and one of our mates who we did not know watched the podcast was like, I loved your podcast. I love your podcast. I watch it every time.
Yeah, but then he said Som was his favourite episode, and I thought, God,
greatest episode of all time.
Zach's
the goated episode.
On that one. Really? Not the Cuban Missile Crisis? Not the Nazi Rise? Had to be the Som?
Well,
whatever.
Nazi Rise is our most viewed episode, actually.
Well, why didn't he watch that one?
No, I don't know.
But yeah, that point being, we just want to take a break.
And it's just a short summer break. We'll be back in probably by the end of August, if that. And we'll come back with fresh ideas, fresh enthusiasm for it, and revitalize. Because I'm pretty tired of this juncture in life. I think the heat's starting to get to me.
Yeah, I mean it is hot right now. Like, it was the hottest day of the year so far yesterday. And yeah, it's exhausting. Anyway,
today we're talking about Xi Jinping. And for those of you who don't know who Xi Jinping is, he is the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party and essentially the leader of the People's Republic of China, and he has been since 2012. Like I said before, when we're talking about the most powerful men in the world, you think Donald Trump, but for me it's Xi Jinping, because he is a dictator. He rules China with an iron fist, essentially. He has a cult of personality around him, which means that he is the man, the only man in China, and he sits at the head of their government bureaucracy and basically has unlimited power to do what he wants. And China is a absolute economic and military powerhouse. So I think that just makes him a bit more dangerous than Trump, despite having like a bigger economy and a bigger military, because Trump has to answer to the public and to his party, whereas Xi pretty much has no one to stand against him.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, it's not like Trump is listening to the party or to the people. He will do whatever. He's literally signing off executive orders like nobody's business, breaking international law, and no one seems to be stopping him. So in general, I agree that the head of China, technically you could say, is the most powerful, but in reality, right now, I still believe it's Trump. But I get the point you're making.
Yeah, I guess the difference is that Trump is unstable as a leader, whereas Xi is a sign of stability.
He is. I mean, the CCCP is outrageously stable. Like they seem to just be constantly level-headed, making very
things are going quite well.
Strategic moves constantly.
I think China's economy is growing at like an enormously quick rate, and like there's a growing middle class now, which is raising its own problems in China.
Yeah,
they're shipping soft power around the whole world in the absence of American support and intervention around the world, because they're becoming increasingly more like isolated and withdrawn. So China's filling that space. So it's looking pretty good for China right now. And Carrie and I are thinking, looks like a nice place to go visit.
Have you been learning Mandarin on Duolingo? Is that what you're trying to say?
Ni hao.
Okay.
Ni hao ma. So I don't know, Chinese is all tonal, so it's like one word can have 4 different meanings in 4 different tones.
That's right.
Yeah, which makes it super complicated to learn Mandarin or Cantonese, I guess.
Is that your excuse?
Yes, and also I don't want to. I'm trying to learn German. That's a slog anyway. So a little bit about Xi. He's made China's economy the second greatest economy in the world. He's grown it significantly since becoming a leader of China. And like I said, he's grown their military infrastructure to basically the second biggest in the world. And he reformed it when he came in and has been pumping money into them. But beyond that, I think general standard of living in China has grown quite a lot.
Yeah.
Like I said, the middle class. So he seems to be a leader that I've and in researching this, and we're going to sound like such simps, but I think I really like him.
Oh, no.
He's doing some dodgy stuff. He's doing some very dodgy stuff, and the People's Republic of China.
Man.
Yeah, the Uyghurs, that's really tough, really bad. Okay, and I don't want to preface anything by after that, but he looks like he's got it all together.
Again, we will try very hard to stay away from the politics side of it, but I can't help because I know a tiny bit about his history because I learned about it a little while ago, and he does actually seem like a pretty impressive individual. So I think it's quite hard not to, when you talk about him, be quite impressed and I don't want to say glazed, but
Rim.
Rim. Well, yeah, because Rim's so much better.
We're giving Xi a bigger rim job this episode.
Oh, mate. That's a new sentence. On this episode of the pod, we're giving Xi a rim job.
That should be the preview, the thumbnail.
Yeah, I've never
we
heard
give
that
Xi a
one
rim
before.
job.
Never heard that one before.
So anyway, the best place to start
Do you remember when we started and certain family members and stuff told us to not swear so much?
I was talking about overly rimming the Chinese dictator.
Yeah, the CCCP. Let's rim him. Yeah,
what's the extra C you're doing in CCCP there?
CCCP. That's
What?
right. The
Chinese Communist Party.
Is it not CC? It's not CCCP.
No, it's CCP.
Are you sure it's not?
Yeah,
No, it's three.
No, it's
three.
not.
It's got to be
CCP.
three.
It's the
CCCP.
Chinese Communist Party.
I'm gonna find out.
This is like what does the D&D day stand for all over again?
I mean, I'm not willing to bet on it, but because I'm sure CCP is right, but I think there is another C in there for some reason. It is. Oh no. Wait. Oh, CCCP is the Soviet Union. Oh, that's what it was. It's that the Soviet Union in Russian was CCCP.
Okay.
So it's not.
So you're wrong. You're completely wrong.
I've got it mixed up. My bad. Hey, my bad. But,
well, that's tough because you came in really arrogant there, like,
I wasn't arrogant.
I know what the CCCP
No,
is. It's got to be CCCP,
that's not fair.
and it's not, is
That's
it?
not fair.
Like
There's
you've got egg on your face,
there's-
and you feel as stupid as I did in that D-Day clip.
There's
and
a
I hope you
difference.
know how bad it feels. Are you enjoying how you feel right now?
I don't react like you do. Like when you're like, no, wait, I know it's this. Let me get my.
You
I
did
know
just do
it's
that.
this. I didn't. I just said, hold on, let me just check. I was way more like,
Oh yeah, you were so calm.
I was cool, calm, under pressure, just like Xi.
The best way to start about Xi Jinping and the best way to talk about his history is by talking about Xi's father. And are we not but our father's sons, Joe?
Yeah, sure.
Or we're not the children of our parents? Because your mum is a world-renowned best-selling author and you are a world-renowned mediocre podcaster.
Just keep it rolling.
I had that joke written down.
Keep it rolling. Yeah, you wrote that one down.
I did. It's right there.
Jesus Christ.
So it's really important to know about Xi's father because this kind of sets a tone of what life in China is like, what the CCP looks like, kind of the up and down roller coaster ride of what it's like to be an official or a son of an official in the Communist Party. It's like incredibly chaotic, especially with Mao Zedong, who is in this time in the 1940s, 50s, a leader of China, and his incredible paranoia and his cult personality and his like frequent tendencies just purge people for no reason if he feels under pressure.
Yeah, that's a commie thing to do.
Yeah, and by the end, Joe, I want to also ask you if you think you could ever be a communist. Because
I feel like you've asked me that like the last 5
yeah, but
pods.
when we get to it, we'll see it.
Okay.
So China in the 1930s was going through a civil war between the nationalists under Chiang Kai-shek and the Kuomintang, and the Chinese Communist Party led by Mao Zedong. And he later becomes the ruler of China in the late 1940s. We're not going to talk about the Chinese Civil War and its intricacies. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Chinese Civil War is probably, we should have done a pod on that anyway.
Absolutely. But by 1949, the Chinese Communist Party defeated the nationalists, and Mao Zedong is the new ruler of China.
Right after World War II.
Yep.
Was it only 1 year, the war?
No, there was 2 phases of the Chinese Civil War. So the first phase was like the early 30s, before the Japanese invasion, and then they banded together to fight the Japanese, which is very nice.
That's nice, yeah.
And then after that, it was like 1945 to 1949. They were like, the Japanese are gone. Let's get fighting again.
Get back to it, yeah.
And the communists attempt taking control of mainland China, and the nationalists retreat to Taiwan, which is now a whole nother story in itself, as China may be looking to invade Taiwan soon to reclaim what they think is still like China, and Taiwan think mainland China is China.
Yeah. That's how the whole Taiwan question has started. It was literally the end of the Chinese Civil War in the 1950s. Sorry, when did it end? At the end of 1949?
Yeah, 1949 it ends.
Right.
Also, Taiwan is the biggest producer of semiconductors in the world.
That's right.
So like NVIDIA,
90%.
microchips, or anything you need for like AI tools. Taiwan produce it.
It
and that
builds
is
90% or over 90% of the world's superconductors. I thought it was. What are they called?
semiconductors. Yeah,
Semiconductors,
and they're
yes.
punching like well above their weight GDP wise because the population rate like
course.
20 million.
This is like an incredibly crucial thing, and
Yeah.
they produce 9 out of every 10 of them worldwide. So it's like whoever controls Taiwan is going to have a leg up in society, which is why Taiwan is being built up as this like potential World War III moment.
Yeah.
Because it's just so important.
Yeah, now US have their eggs in this basket because they need the semiconductors for their massive like AI program. So
Right.
we're taking a break for the summer, but like when we get back for the summer, the world could be a completely different place.
No.
Like who knows with what's happening? But let's not dive into that. So Xi's father, Xi Jinping, has now become a senior figure in the CCP around the 1940s, 1950s, after China's Civil War. He was brought up to a landowning family and joined the Chinese Communist Youth League in 1926. He was then imprisoned by the nationalists in the 1920s. And in prison, he joined the Chinese Communist Party in 1928. He joined the Red Army.
Red Army. Sorry, this is natural. If you're an Arsenal fan, it's very natural.
To work with the communist guerrillas in the 1930s and was almost executed in 1935 when a CCP purge almost included him in it. But Mao Zedong at the last minute came in and said, no, don't purge him. He's a good guy, basically. So Mao steps in the last second to save Xi's dad.
Wow.
So Xi Jinping forms a revolutionary-based area in northwest China. And this is where the Chinese Communist movement eventually made their headquarters in 1947 after the...
47.
Another word for a big walk. The Long March.
Of course.
The Long March was a military retreat by the CCP during the first phase of the China Civil War, when the nationalists basically beat back the communists. So the communists went on this like massive retreat across the country and basically found themselves in northern China in the space set up by Xi's dad. So like clearly a really important figure in the early days of the Chinese Communist Party. He was charged with bringing communist governance into like newly captured areas, charged with like turning them, and he often favoured non-violent means to do so. So was a bit of a man of the people, worked like diplomacy and stuff like that to be able to get them on side rather than like pointing guns at them and be like, you're a communist now. So Xi's father then becomes chief of the party's propaganda department. He supervises cultural education policies and then becomes a member of the CCP Central Committee, which is like basically one of the most important bodies in the entire Chinese Communist Party. He rises up the ranks until he basically becomes the vice premier to Zhou Enlai, which is essentially deputy prime minister of China. So like a really senior role that Xi's dad has.
Yeah, he's like one of the top figures.
Yeah,
basically.
essentially. So this is like the whole thing. So because of he has such a big position, Xi's then called a princeling. So Xi Jinping, who we knew now, is one of like a group of young Communist Party officials that had high-ranking parents in the Communist Party. So it's him, Bo Xilai, I think, or I can't remember his name. There's a couple of people who have like really famous parents in the Communist Party, and they're sort of like fast-tracked into being themselves basically senior figures in the Communist Party. So he's had like a sort of step up the entire way through. So in 1962, Xi's father is then accused of leading an anti-party clique because he supported a biography which basically went against the regime. So he has to undergo self-criticism, and he's then demoted to be the deputy manager at a tractor factory. So he's basically the deputy prime minister of China, and is then immediately demoted to being a tractor factory manager after like this like one wrong move supporting a biography of something who didn't like Mao.
What a fool that is. That's communism.
If you were
Why should I vote for it?
just wait. Actually, I'm not really going to say why, but like, I'm just hoping you'll come along with me along the way.
All right,
my kindred spirit.
I'll keep my mind open.
If you were self-criticizing, Joe, what would you say?
If I was what?
If you were self-criticizing.
If I was self-criticizing what? Myself?
What would you say, yeah?
I suck.
Come on.
What do you
Give
mean?
me a bit of
What am I
passion.
not good at?
No, it's got to be like,
What do you mean?
oh, I'm shameful. I've gone against the party.
Oh, I see. Like as a statement.
Yeah, as a statement.
Oh, I truly have wronged the people of China with my decisions, and I am dreadfully sorry. Please, in your hearts, forgive me, but know that I will remember my actions until the day I die.
Are you stupid?
Yes, Father.
Are you boring?
If you think so, Father.
Why are you calling me father?
I don't know. Maybe they call the leader Dad or something. Don't they call him? Do they call him something
Uncle Xi.
Uncle Xi or something? Yeah.
And they also call him Winnie the Pooh.
That's it. That's the one. Winnie the Pooh.
That's not like an endearing thing. That's
is it
because
not?
like since they basically it's a meme because Xi Jinping had a picture of Barack Obama in like the early 2010s where he looked like Winnie the Pooh. So like as a way of getting around censorship, they would call Xi Jinping Winnie the Pooh or Winnie. They go like, oh, Winnie's been great. Winnie's been terrible today or something like that. And they basically make memes about it.
Look, in a system where there's hyper surveillance and you got to get your words out somewhere. I mean, that's a pretty clever way to do it. So, why should I be a communist again?
Is this a recurring thing?
I'm just saying, you know.
It's self-criticizing, by the way, when you're like publicly humiliated.
Yeah, well, I realise now. You just said we'll go self-criticize, and I was thinking, well, what does that mean?
Go for it.
No,
what would I say? Nothing really to self-criticize.
Yeah, that sounds about right. In lots of dictatorships, they make you do this, basically. They did this in Vietnam with POWs, where they'd have to do this.
You're basically taken to like a platform and a stage, and they put placards around your head saying you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah, in North Korea as well, it's quite a thing.
Yeah, they basically beat you up, sometimes torture you and kill you for being a class enemy, which in a communist to layman terms is like anyone who's against the revolution, which is just someone who's maybe got capitalist influences, something like that. But really, it's just a tool used to like silence your inner challengers and critics. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about Xi Jinping's father. We learned a bit about what the ups and downs are like being part of the Communist Party at this time in the 20th century China.
The fall from grace.
Yeah. So let's talk about the man himself, because this is the episode after all. Xi Jinping. He was born on the 15th of June, 1953 in Beijing, which is the capital of China. Well done. I don't know why I do. There's really no need to chime you in there.
Is that crazy?
I was trying to get some interaction, you know?
I was just, for a second, I was like, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe a common misconception that it's Shanghai.
I think Shanghai's like the cultural capital of China, maybe.
Right.
And Beijing's like the... Well, no, but it's not really. Like, you know, the capital is Beijing.
I mean, really, it should be Hong Kong. Not because of, I'm not saying because of the protest.
That is incredibly outrageous political take.
I know. Sorry. While we're at it, let's not mention Tiananmen Square.
We just got censored of all the fucking Chinese networks.
This one was gonna blow up in China.
I looked at our viewership before this. There is no viewers from China. They don't have access. They don't have access to Spotify, but apparently they do have access to Apple Podcasts with like a list of select.
Should we
platforms.
try and boost our pod in China? I mean, they don't speak
we need
English.
to be like pre-approved by the regime to get on. So
then
like,
forget about Tiananmen Square. That's nothing.
Yeah, Tiananmen Square is just like
who knows?
Yeah,
I've never heard
I don't
of
think
it.
it actually even happened.
I think it's like a triangle or something, like in the somewhere place. It's like
Tiananmen Square is a triangle.
Yeah, it's like some bullshit triangle that matters nothing. No one cares about it.
I think it was actually a great day, Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, it was actually one of the best days
for China.
Yeah, I think actually one of the best days.
Everything went really right.
Yeah, one of their best. And the funny thing is, you never ask a man his age, you never ask a woman how it weighs, and you never ask China what happened to Tiananmen Square in 1980, whatever it is, 89.
So Beijing is a city of huge affluence. You know, it's an enormous metropolis.
Would I see it?
Absolutely, yeah, likewise. It's got huge affluence, also huge deprivation. Xi is the third child of Xi Zhongxun and his second wife, Qi Jin. I think Ki is it she or Ki?
I don't know.
I'm probably getting it wrong. Anyone in the comments, let us know. It's considered to be a princeling, like I said, one of the descendants of like successful communist leaders who later themselves rise to high ranks. And he is just brought up in exquisiteness, I would say. He's brought up in, you know, with the finest schooling. He lives in a compound in Beijing alongside other like prominent princelings, basically. He goes to the school for like the ruling elite, and they're eating like unbelievable food, getting great schooling into education. But at the same time, there's a backdrop of a famine happening in China. So they're having this like the Great Famine, which kills 55 million people.
That must be one of the worst famines ever. Because I mean, Mao Zedong is like known as like one of the biggest killers of anyone, right? Because of
so I think Mao Zedong, out of all the dictators, has killed the most by like a massive.
Because that famine was so brutal.
And like
that is unbelievable, isn't it?
And the famine was a result of the Great Leap Forward, and this is basically where Mao Zedong was like, you know what, we're pretty backwards. Let's like industrialize and modernize and get rid of all these silly farms and agriculture and stuff like that, and make everyone start making like iron and steel and shit like that. But like the problem is that they're like the biggest country in the world, and they need food. So all of a sudden they have like no output and no production from farms, and they just basically starve.
So was it just pure incompetent mismanagement, or was it more? I thought it was more cynical than that.
It's like the same thing in Russia, basically, with the Holodomor, where they tried to basically decimate the Ukrainian landowning peasantry or farm owners, stuff like that. And yeah, they basically ended up murdering like 2 to 5 million people in Ukraine, and it's sort of the same sort of thing. It's because Stalin tried to take the land. He went to collectivization rather than their traditional practices of agriculture, and this just completely fucked up. And that's kind of what Mao tries to do. He's like, yeah, we'll reform land, we'll do like new agricultural practices, and make sure everyone's doing it because it's a communist state and everyone's got to be doing exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's got to have these tactics, otherwise, they could have a leg up, and that's not right. That's they're a class enemy. So yeah, no food for a long time. I think a couple year period, and apparently during that time, 55 million people die, and particularly in some provinces, you're seeing around 20% of the population dying.
20%.
So for example, if that happened in London, 1 in 5 people dying.
Yeah,
that would be 2 million people dead.
Those are like Black Death numbers.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's like those are the kind of demographic numbers that completely change a population.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
And then Xi and his family just having a great life here at the same time. So
by that, sorry, I just mean in terms of percentage. Not the Black Death is minuscule in comparison. I just mean in terms of percentage of the population.
So this is the problem with communism. It's like great in theory and like conceptually, but then you get these harsh instances of like really, really shit leaders who just like have their own cult personality. They think they can do no wrong, and they're hoisted on this pedestal, and they have a cult personality because they're like greedy and hungry for power, and that goes against what communism is. Yeah. It's not like an equal sharing of rights and food and privileges and status. It's more this like mishmash of corruption and chaos, which like absolutely decimates these countries. And it did do the Soviet Union, and it did in communist China up until the 1970s when Deng Xiaoping comes in. I think in spirit, everyone would like to be a communist because serve each other, serve equally. No one's better than anyone else. No one wants to be ruled by like 5 media companies and 5 corporations that own like every single company in the world. Everyone wants to. We want to live in like a kibbutz style arrangement where maybe I'm looking at this through like a bit of an echo chamber in myself, but I genuinely think that the majority of people would be pretty content with a life like that.
I think you are, because I don't think the majority of people, or even a minority of people, would think introspectively that you know what, I do actually wish it was communism. I think a lot of people are very wary of it. I agree that the idea of communism is great, or the concept of it is great. I think it's great, but the fact is that since there's pretty much been no good examples of it being put into practice, I'm just completely skeptical that it ever could. And for that reason, I think it's useless. It's like, forget about it as a concept because it's not
innate greed of people.
Right. But if that's true, then you have to find a system that works around that. And
capitalism
works. Certainly isn't it, because my God, I hate the fact that we're being owned by like 5 companies worldwide.
Capitalism is greed incarnate. Xi's family are about to experience a tremendous fall from grace. So they're having this amazing life, living in the laps of luxury, but that's all going to end because Xi's father is purged by the party and he becomes this tractor factory manager in 1963. When Xi is also at secondary school in 1966, another thing happens. The Cultural Revolution. So the Cultural Revolution is basically this thing that happens in 1966. Chairman Mao publishes the Red Book, and it's like this whole thing about like how China is being twisted and torn apart by bourgeois elements that have infiltrated society. There are class enemies trying to bring back capitalism, and we've got to root them out. And he basically spreads this like immensely among young students and young people.
The Blue Scare.
It's a scare, yeah, you're right. It's a scare. And he basically like riles up and like fills with like immense frustration these students who already like they're waiting for something to get involved in, and he sets up these like armed militias across the country. They basically go into towns, universities, businesses, and just like ransack them, demolish them, like kill people, torture people, publicly hang and brutalize people. All for this like conquest against capitalism, but there really is like no capitalism. It's just that Mao wants to like consolidate his rule and power, and he has challenges from like the moderates and the sort of rightists from in the Communist Party. So he's like, to cling to power, they're going to try and oust me, fucking let it burn. And he's just like trying to send into absolute chaos for 10 years. From 1966 to 1976, the Cultural Revolution happens.
Chairman Mao really did a number, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And during the Cultural Revolution, Xi's secondary schooling is postponed, it's completely ended. Students come into his classroom and they're like, we want you to criticize your teachers, basically. like basically put his teachers
to child Xi, he had to criticize his...
Yeah, I don't know if he specifically has to do it, but his school is like one of the schools that are ransacked and hit by this wave of like euphoria among young people trying to like rise up against the system. It's easy to say it seems like misplaced, but when like Mao Zedong, the father of your nation, is coming down to you with these like principles about how China is being attacked by these invaders from capitalist influences, you're gonna be like, fuck that. Let's go silence some teachers, some like people earning like very little salary who have nothing to do with this. But like professors and stuff like that and universities.
Always a bit dodgy when you start screwing up the universities and
Yeah.
stuff.
You said that last time.
I know, because it's never a good look. It's always dodge.
Yeah. They also come in and ransack his family home, and his sister is persecuted to death.
Ooh.
So I
does
don't
that
know.
work?
I tried to.
Does that just mean torture?
I tried to Google what that means. I think probably like, at the worst of it, murdered and like, raped probably and
what does
beaten up
persecuted
and stuff
mean
like
in that
that.
sense?
And at the lower end of it, well, I mean, is there a lower end of being persecuted to death? Being persecuted would be like being humiliated and beaten and stuff like that. At the end, it's like murder and like.
He's had quite the upbringing then.
Yeah. And his mother's forced to denounce his father publicly. And in 1968, at the age of 15, Xi's father is imprisoned. Xi then goes, oh, God, I've had enough of this. This is just ridiculous.
How old is he?
In 1968, he's 15, sorry.
15.
And he goes, I'm going to leave Beijing. This is all just fucking too chaotic because like the rural areas aren't having too much of this cultural revolution. It's mainly in the big cities. So he leaves Beijing and heads north to Jiangxi, which is in northern China. It's a basically rural province in the area of Yan'an. And it's very, very outdated, like quite backwards, still like farming, agriculture society. They live in mud huts and stuff there. Apparently here, and this is probably lifted straight from the CCP like handbook on Xi Jinping, but he grows an affinity with the rural poor here. That's apparently what it says. You have to take everything that I'm reading with a pinch of salt. Like, it could be a completely made up story, because since Xi is coming to power...
I'm going to take that one with some salt, I think.
Since Xi is coming to power, he has deleted everything anyone has ever said that's bad about him and deleted everything that he said that's like good about someone else from the records and from the archives. So
there are things, I'm sure you're going to say things about him that I will believe, but for him to say that he had a natural affinity with the poor of this rural village, I'll be like, maybe he was good at communicating with them, but I doubt he was.
As an elitist child.
Yeah, elitist child.
Of people that living in like
of
stone houses.
Literally one of the most powerful men in the country previously is his dad.
Yeah, I mean, what I've gathered clearly from researching Xi is that he is a really talented person. Even reading through the lines and like having this expectation, he's clearly done some really good shit. Like, he's clearly very well educated. He clearly knows how to get on well with poor people in rural areas, because he spends a lot of time in rural areas in his young days. So there's clearly some truth to the fact that he has got skills and like talent, but picking together what he has done and what's been made up afterwards and what he's maybe taken credit for later, that's where like the actual historicity of validity of like dissecting it is well actually. And I don't think it's really possible to do that. I think even historians probably struggle to dissect what's true and what's false.
It's not just going to be him. Like, we've told 4 of these rulers and leaders, and I bet you many of the stories that we've told are either completely untrue, but historians have no other data, so how else would they know? Their stories from Alexander the Great and Henry V, like that's hundreds of years and stuff. It's like there would have been the propaganda line, which was that Henry V did this and Alexander the Great did this, and it might be completely bullshit. We don't know, but at the end of the day, this is what we've got to work with, so we're just going to go with it for now. Very
true. Anyway, he spends a few months in this area in Shaanxi, and then Shaanxi, I think it's pronounced. He spends a few months there and then decides he's had enough again and he wants to go back to Beijing, but then he goes to Beijing and they crack down on deserters from the countryside and arrest him for leaving the countryside, and they send him back there and he has to go start digging ditches in fields. So he's really had a bit of a turnaround.
Wow.
And this is where Xi thinks, I guess in my mind, this is where, if I'm envisaging it, I think Xi thinks, this system's fucking shit. I'm gonna just topple the whole fucking thing. Like, I've lived in squalor. My father's been publicly abused and humiliated. I've seen people in the streets getting like tortured and murdered. There's been famines. I can't fucking stand this.
Yeah.
And I reckon it's probably here where he has this moment. It's like, this is what I'm thinking. Here's the moment he goes, nah, I'm gonna rule the whole thing. It's very like House of Cards how I'm picturing it, but his actions next would suggest that he does do that. So that's why I think of that.
Okay.
So Xi's political career begins here. So he starts work as a party secretary in Xi Jinping commune to lead social education efforts. So his dad's been purged, his mother's been denouncing his father, his mum's his sister's been persecuted to death, and he goes, I'm going to join the party.
Yeah.
So here's where I think the House of Cards like story is coming together.
Yeah,
He
quite
builds a
possibly.
strong rapport with villagers there and eventually applies to join the CCP, but this is blocked because his dad was a very naughty boy, as we are aware from previous things I've said.
I wonder if he like actually took he started his journey and just took like a I'm gonna burn this place down to the ground. Like I
Down
think
to the ground.
maybe he was so passionately like against it. He was like, I'm gonna ruin this for everyone.
Yeah.
And then as he grew in stature and grew in popularity and grew into the party, he became the very thing he swore to destroy. And he realizes, actually, I want to be the big dog. Maybe it's a
But I
bit of
don't
that.
think
Maybe
he-
it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I
Maybe
don't think
maybe he's got these like different ideas in his mind. He's like, God, these people suck, but also power's fun. Maybe he's like, man, this is the moment where I can finally, shit on the CCP and tell them all, you assholes, you killed
ruined
my
everything.
dad.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
going to
gonna
kill
burn
you.
it.
And then he's like literally about to do it. And he's like,
Hold on.
hold on, no.
Looks at his hands
He
and
looks
they're
at his-
shaking.
Yeah, and he's like, I have so much power.
Potentially, but I think he does truly love like Chinese people.
Yeah.
He always does his best everywhere he goes to.
He's a very hard worker, that's
yeah.
for certain.
So let me get onto it because this will become more clear. But he basically builds a strong rapport with villagers in this area in Xi Jinping, and eventually he tries to apply to join the party, but they block him because of his dad. Then a new commune secretary comes in, recognizes his abilities, and forwards his application to become the party branch chairman of a local brigade. He then does an unbelievably good job. He sees weaknesses in the local area and he solves them. He learns about biogas digesters to boost the production of his commune, and his breakthrough that he has spreads throughout the whole province of Jiangxi. He drills wells for water supply, establishes iron industry cooperatives, reclaims land, plants tobacco, and sets up sales outlets which address the economic challenges that many businesses have in the area.
He's doing a lot.
Yeah, he is. And at this point in time, there's basically a situation where the CCP have like no access to university, and if you are going to go to university, you have to be a party member. You have to become a worker, peasant, soldier, student to be able to do that. So you have to have been a worker, have been a peasant, have been a soldier, and also be a student to be able to get to university. So they basically let like one person per province, per party branch go to university. And he's then in 1975 allocated a spot at Tsinghua University in Beijing, where he studies chemical engineering. So he's becoming a bit of a self-made man. He's clearly very talented at governing, and it's impressive. It's a natural
Quite
sort
clever
of,
as well.
Yeah, natural sort of credential for it. Yeah, you don't study chemical engineering if you're not quite clever.
Yeah.
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid here. like,
Yeah.
I'm starting to get behind our boy Xi.
Considering his background and considering how powerful his father was before he was denounced, for Xi to have essentially been a princeling and then to start, despite being a princeling, at the very bottom of the social hierarchy in terms of becoming a public servant all the way to the top dog, is impressive, whatever way
There
you
will
look
be a
at
bit
it.
of nepotism though. There will be a bit of like, oh, your dad's this guy. He's a bit ashamed, but you must be quite a talented man yourself.
Yeah, maybe you're right. But I just think what is quite intriguing about his character is the fact that clearly this is not a story like many of the others. Well, Trump and Putin. Well, to be fair, Putin actually is. But
Yeah.
Trump and many
Putin was-
British
yeah.
prime ministers that all had the most incredible educations and all this stuff. It's like, for him, this is a bit of a rags to riches story. I mean, that's too much. He's not rags to riches. His dad's
Riches to rags
is
to riches.
Yeah, that's it. He's
That's
riches to
it.
rags to riches, and that is an interesting story.
Yeah. No, it's true. It only gets more impressive,
Mm.
which is the astounding thing. So even if it isn't all true, there's surely bits out of it where you can be like, he's got to have something about him.
Yeah.
It's getting to 1976 when Mao Zedong dies, the Cultural Revolution ends, and Deng Xiaoping becomes the paramount leader for the PRC. So he leads China and he takes them through economic reform and social reform, takes them away from Maoism and like this dictatorship back towards this sort of like CCP still being the big deal, but like no benevolent leader, no dictator. It's like terms set into place. Deng Xiaoping is the architect of modern China. He completely revolutionizes the economy. He's what kind of sets them on their like massive boom of growth towards today.
If it wasn't for that change, then they wouldn't be the second biggest country in the world right now.
They become
if not the number one.
Yeah, they become a socialist market economy, so they let in like outside influences and stuff like that. But they still have like the core of socialism and like no middle class, no upper class.
Yeah.
It's all about no bourgeois. It's all about proletariat. And China gets opened up to the world stage. And it's all about like political and economic pragmatism under Deng Xiaoping, which is probably the best thing to do for a leader. I think any good leader has to be pragmatic and roll with the times. And he would definitely cover Deng Xiaoping again. Like, he is truly, in his own right, absolutely fascinating. To go into a country like so beset by divides and like class wars and be like, this has got to end. We gotta ship shape. He says like we need stability at home, and if we have stability at home, we can have stability in the world, basically. And he just completely turns China on its head from like this faction rivaling, tensions rising, to this like unbelievable powerhouse we see today. Back to Xi. He then continues rising up the ranks and he finishes university in 1979. He's appointed deputy party secretary in Hebei province in 1980. I think Hebei, Hebei? Hebei? Hebei.
I don't speak Mandarin, dude. How many times are you going to come to me going, this is how I pronounce it? I have no idea, man. Like, Christ, I say Beijing wrong, I'm sure.
What do you say?
Well, I don't know, I'm guessing, you know? It's like, I have no clue how to say this stuff.
Anyway, Xi is sent to Hebei in 1982, where he significantly increases farmers' income. He solves the county's economic issues again, and he travels to Iowa in the US as part of like a delegation to learn about agricultural production and corn processing technology. So he's got, a yearning, a hunger to learn. The CCP then sent him to Fujian province in 1985, where he oversees treatments for Yangdang Lake. He handles poverty eradication efforts and local CCP building projects, and apparently he enhances organizational efficiency by digitizing the area and overseeing the construction of an international airport, setting up a growth strategy for 3, 8, and 20 years. So, again, very impressive. Xi also notably meets his wife in Fujian province.
Aw, cute.
Her name is Peng Li-wan.
Peng. Let's go.
It's bad when you hear Alfie laughing behind us. I have here in my notes. Meets his wife here, Peng Li-wan. And man, oh man, was she a Peng? He won.
So cringe.
Anyway, he's turning these regions where he goes to, he's going to these places, he's improving them, turning them into like sort of urban powerhouses and superpowers, and he's becoming a bit more well-known and established in the CCP. In 2002, he leaves to Zhejiang, where he becomes party committee secretary for the area and is acting governor of the area, occupying a top office for the first time. And then in 2002, he's done it. He's been elected to be a full member of the 16th Central Committee.
Hey, let's
Unbelievable.
go. 16.
The Central Committee, I would say, in like UK talk, is Labour's equivalent of the NEC, which basically like picks who's going to be the MP and like picks who could be Prime Minister, stuff like that. Like in name, they have a lot of power, but in practice, like the MPs and the cabinet, they're the ones who hold all the power.
Right.
And Keir Starmer's actually taken quite a bit of power away from the NEC recently.
Really?
Because, he thinks they're like too problematic, and I think this is like the article said anyway, was that there's too much bureaucracy and stuff like that at the heart of Labour decision making, and it's quite true, because like the Conservatives have like a really streamlined process where it's this one guy, basically it was Sir Graham Brady in the 1922 committee, who makes all the decisions about who's going to be running for PM, and it's got to be backed by MPs, but Labour one has like, because of trade unions, stuff like that, has so much power from like the membership. Anyway, back to Xi Jinping. He becomes a one to watch, and while he's in Zhejiang, he becomes a hard fighter against corruption, and he starts towing the party line. He then comes, I think when you're getting that close to the top ranks, you want to be like, oh, no, I've always been a super faithful party member. I've never gone against the party. I wouldn't do this because it's against it's too bourgeois. And he starts getting a bit careful and disciplined about making sure he's seen the right way, because I think he genuinely thinks he has a chance now to become the leader of China if he plays his cards right. In 2007, he's transferred to Shanghai. And he's really disciplined there about what he wants to do. He basically refuses to take a special train to hand off in his work to the person in Zhejiang who replaces him, because there's a loose regulation that special trains are only reserved for national leaders. And while he is in the Central Committee, so he's one of like the top dogs in China, he is not a national leader yet. So he's really taken this seriously about becoming a big party name. And he's moving up and up. And in October 2007, which is so recent when you think, it's supposed to be like one of the most recent times we've talked about in our podcast, 2007.
2007?
Yeah.
Well, Johnny in Afghanistan was, 2011?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So,
and he's appointed to the 9-man Politburo Standing Committee of the CCP, which is essentially the cabinet. Like these are the people in the highest positions, making all the decisions basically, and they sit above the Politburo, which is like the parliament of the CCP organizational structure. Going pretty well, isn't it, for RG?
Yeah.
It gets even better because 2008 he becomes vice president of the People's Republic of China, and he's put in charge.
Let's go.
And in 2008 he's put in charge of the Summer Olympics.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, great
Wait,
Olympics.
so he was in charge of the 2008?
He was put in charge of preparations of the Beijing
what?
Olympics.
Now you say that, that rings a bell. What? Go to the Olympics, by the way.
I would say that was an unbelievable
Go-to
Olympics.
Olympics.
Usain Bolt,
Opening ceremony.
100 meters, 200 meters. Michael
yeah,
Phelps.
Usain Bolt arrives on the world stage. You got the Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games game came out. Classic, absolute classic. If you know, if you know, you know, man. That was a go-to game. You play it on the Wii, and you go and you like run and stuff. It's man.
I never had a Wii.
Oh, you never had a Wii?
No, did you?
That sucks for you, man.
I honestly don't think I missed out. Everyone had a Wii, so you would go to someone's house like after school or something and play Wii Tennis, which was the only game worth playing.
No,
absolutely.
No,
Yeah, it totally was.
Whoa.
Tell me another Wii game that's worth playing.
You've had some bad
Mario
takes.
Kart, sorry.
Mario Kart.
So any Super Mario
Party.
Smash Bros.
Wii Fit. Some jokes
Wii
games
Fit.
on Wii Fit, yeah. Yeah, there's loads, man. There's loads.
So Xi looks set to become the president of China.
Here we go.
He's on the way. He's just had the Olympics.
Let's go. Olympics.
The Olympics was
hit.
unbelievable. Great success.
Loved it.
While he's vice president, he's making connections, going to different countries. He's been to Germany, Japan, United States, many South American countries. He goes to visit Obama and Biden back then when Biden was like working mentally. Yeah. And he takes a little pit stop in Iowa again. You know, he was there earlier in the story. He went to learn about corn processing, and he goes back to see the family that held him up there.
Yeah.
He goes back and thanks them, and I think probably has like a nice photo with them.
Sweet.
So after those visits, it's coming in 2012 that the current president of China is going to retire. There's the end of his 2 terms, and there is a committee called to basically figure out who the next president's going to be. And suddenly, on the 1st September 2012, he disappears for 2 weeks.
No.
Yeah, he disappears.
Where's he gone?
Could it be he's ill?
Or maybe.
Could it be that he's been imprisoned? Purged?
Purged, yeah.
Could it be that
Could be that.
he's been assassinated?
No.
Is there a successor? Is there another person in the CCP that's going to...
Baby Xi.
No, he's back 2 weeks later, and he's now the president of China. He's done it.
What?
He is confirmed.
Out of nowhere!
He's confirmed by the 12th National People's Congress with 2,952 votes to 1 with 3 abstentions.
So why was he AFK for 2 weeks? What happened
No
there?
one knows.
No
one knows.
What'd my man do?
No one knows where he's gone for 2 weeks, but he
did
just
something.
disappears from all public light.
Fair play.
And after this, he goes on a path to domination. He goes on like, I will consolidate power.
This was like his
solely on me.
moment, you know? He
Yeah,
had
he's
like his irons out, he was looking at a really nice view, and he's like...
He's
"What-
Kevin Spacey
do I do
in
it?
House of Cards.
Do I do it?
Democracy is so overrated.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Well, I was just saying he was aura farming. That's what I was saying.
He leaves them hanging, like the lights are all black, and then like flashing lights. She.
And they turn around and it's like, my God! My God, he's back!
He's back, JR! So he goes on to complete domination of the political landscape. He centralizes power. He creates working groups for himself as the head to become the central figure of the regime.
Nice.
He passes constitutional amendments so that he can serve an unlimited number of terms. Trump, take note. And he begins to program...
He's taking notes.
Yeah, he begins to program censorship, wiping everything good that people said about him, that he said about other people off the map, and I'm sure nobody can speak ill of him.
Nice.
They call him Winnie the Pooh in China, like we said earlier, because the picture of Winnie the Pooh, and that was like part of this, program of censorship. He develops a strong cult of personality, and there's books, cartoons, songs, dances made in his honor, and he's known as Uncle Xi for a period of time.
Uncle Xi.
And he basically goes on a strong anti-corruption campaign, but looking at it critically, probably was just to like silence critics and challenge stuff like that. But what he does do, regardless of like the centralizing power and the becoming the dictator, is he doubles China's economy from 8.5 trillion in 2012 to 17.8 trillion in 2023.
Wow.
And China's GDP has like far surpassed the world average in this situation. He reforms the military, increases the budget to $246 billion. Our military budget is like $77 billion. And the Americans, take a wild guess what their military budget is.
I'm not going to give you a number. I would say 6 times more.
Than China's?
Yeah.
It almost, it's 4 times higher. They spend 900 billion on defense every year. If you're thinking about like the strength of military powers in the state, like there is a 700 billion pound gulf between first and second. If China and US went to war, it wouldn't be.
That's
much
why
of a
whenever
war.
anyone asks, like, why are they the number one? Like, surely China are at this point. I was just like military prowess.
Yeah.
Like, America dwarfs
If you
every
spend money on
country
defense, you have
by
a
a
good defense.
by a mile. And that is just going to continue until something changes in the geopolitical landscape.
And he's also massively increased China's soft power, which is not really talked about enough on the world stage. China have investments in basically like everywhere.
Including the UK.
Yep, they do. And what they do is they basically lend to countries. They say, we'll build this massive like
sneaky.
infrastructure works if we can get like loads of thousands of Chinese workers in here and stuff like that. So they basically imprint themselves all around the globe and specifically in Africa. And apparently what they do is they do it at like an intensely high lending rate.
The Belt and Road Initiative.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Or
I
lease?
don't actually know there's a name for it.
Yeah.
What is it?
Belt and Road Initiative, I thought, is what they did. What they're doing.
Do you know a bit more about it? Or?
Well, I think as much as you do.
Yeah. So I imagine what they do is they say, we'll build this for you, but we want some of your natural resources or we want some money.
Yeah.
And typically these African countries can't afford to pay the debt.
Yeah, which is why it's a bit sneaky. It's kind of they're imposing these things that they latch onto because they need it, and then they realize like we actually can't pay this off, so now we're basically indebted to you forever. And I say that and say it's sneaky, but it's exactly what America did after World War II.
Marshall Plan.
Yeah, it's like it's not any superpower will break terms or pressure you into doing something that even though it's definitely against your interest, just because they have that power and they're able to do it.
The Marshall Plan was probably more just for communism, right? So it's like
But it's still, you know what I mean?
Still
though.
like holding them at gunpoint.
Mate, they put so much money into Europe to refund it, and in the process said, "Now we're going to leave our nukes all over your continent." And you can't say no to us. We've just fucking helped you.
Very true. They're now also one of the only countries with cordial relations with Russia, and it's because Xi's very pragmatic, and he knows that if he wants to get cheap oil, he can get it at a very cut price from Russia and Iran. And the same thing that India and Modi are doing right now is they're basically just going, we're not going to isolate Russia because we can make a killing here.
Yeah.
So they're basically buying all their oil for nothing.
The really interesting thing about like the Asian continent is that all the big players, because there's a lot of big players there, all not despise, but don't like each other, or at the very least don't trust each other.
Yeah.
But the thing is, in the world that they're in right now, it makes sense for all of them to work together in some format, even if they don't trust each other. It's like as long as there aren't like nukes aimed and primed, ready to go at each other, then they think it is in our interest because we're all growing, or at least trying to grow, and America is stifling, or is at its best trying to stifle all these countries.
That's pretty much what like you forget that like the Western order at the same time as like having put so many great things through, social care and stuff like that, and like democracy and human rights. They are pushing other people down to maintain their status at the top.
And when we say, and look,
everywhere.
Europe and the EU are part of it, but let's make no mistake,
Americans
this is America, and the funny thing is that like because of the state of play, as America, as China especially, but not just China, India and Russia, as they get closer and closer to this top dog idea status, it's like America gets more desperate to stop them getting any further.
Do you know how much that, like, in terms of like the play out of nuclear weapons, that's really relevant? So like back in the 1950s when they discovered the atom bomb, they immediately cut off all communications and correspondence with us, who helped develop the bomb with them, gave them scientists, like led the way on most of the development. So we had the Manhattan Project before the Manhattan Project was a thing. And then after they made the bomb, they were like, no, we're the only ones who allowed the bomb. And they cut off everything with us. So that is like American
not just
attitudes.
mate, it's not just nukes.
through.
I'm not sure if I feel like I might have brought this up in a previous podcast, but it's not just that. America, I'm going to get the details of this wrong, but as World War II was ending, the UK was in outrageous debt with America and just in a really bad position. So much the colonies were leaving at a rapid rate or planning to leave, and there's this. They have no money. Some of our cities have been burned to the dust and stuff, and it's like. And so Britain and Churchill tried desperately to get America to help, and Roosevelt, for all his saintly things that he did, was very much like, we will help you rebuild, but we're making absolutely sure that all that power you had pre-World War II is now going to be ours.
Yeah.
We're in charge of everything. All these deals were so, 80-20 for America that would suit them more. They would help the UK as much as they could to rebuild, but at the same time making sure that Britain, which was the dominant global superpower before America, is now no longer.
We would do the exact same though.
Yeah,
and
we
did do the same.
Well, we did. I'm
With the
saying,
East India
exactly,
Company was that exact thing.
You're absolutely right. I need to say this. I'm not saying that as if it's a bad thing. We did it all the time when we were the global superpower. It's just, this is how it works. If you're at the very top, you will push down the nations just below you because you need to make sure that you have the biggest gulf. And that America, especially in around 1990, had the biggest gulf to anyone, and that has just been getting thinner and thinner and thinner during Xi Jinping.
Only to China,
but Xi Jinping and just China in general, it's reigned, and now it's actually really close. And so you see more desperate plays being made.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
The
I love
geopolitical stage.
I love the geopolitics of China and America and that stuff. It's so interesting.
And back to Xi. Xi's also allowed Carrie Lam to crack down and repress Hong Kong with the one country, two systems law, which is not really one country, two systems. Hong Kong's basically now part of China. It's also worth mentioning the plight of the Uyghurs. In 2012, I think China experienced a bit of an uptick in terrorism, and as a result of that, they basically said, like, in northwestern China, where there's like a big population of Muslim people
in China,
they basically decided that they were going to intern and detain all of them, and put them into like concentration camps, basically.
They call it internment camps, but
they are concentration camps.
But it's being described as concentration camps because they are pretty brutal.
And what they do there is they put them through re-education, where they essentially tell them about the flaws of their ways and not to be radicals and stuff like that, and to believe in China and the people and the system. But what it actually turns out is it's like slave labor. Yeah. It's forced detainment, forced sterilization.
It's the biggest selection of detention camps since World War II and the concentration camps.
And you can imagine within that there's also
of all the good things that we like to say about Xi Jinping, this is a pretty bad black mark that is ongoing. It has been ongoing for a while.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, because China is so invaluable to the world now as an economic powerhouse, this is something that everyone just kind of lets go under the rug. Yeah. Just like, we don't really care about.
Yeah, you can't. China's too powerful, so you can't. Exactly. If you speak up, then you're hurting your own nation.
Yeah, like if America started interning, which they did do in Britain, interned Japanese Americans during World War II, but say they suddenly decided to start.
But deporting people to El Salvador. yeah. Imagine this hypothetical where they start deporting illegal immigrants to El Salvador. Yeah, can the world stage say anything? No.
Keeping kids in cages.
Every government is pretending it's not happening. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And that hypothetical is so crazy. Thankfully, that doesn't happen.
Hypothetical.
We're not pint-sized politics. Shit. Fuck, we were doing so well. We lost it right at the end.
Yeah, and also looking forward, and I guess the reason why I wanted to talk about Xi Jinping as well is because not only is he fascinating, the story is insane, but the question of Taiwan's sovereignty is becoming like ever looming in today's politics and history. So we are literally watching on a day-to-day basis history emerge and evolve as the Russian war in Ukraine happens and the Iran and Israel war happens, and the next real step in like any potential global crisis. And sorry to like doomsay before the summer break that we're having, is that if
I don't think it's going to happen in the next few months. No. But I think we could say now our prediction. I think both of us predict that at some point within the next 5 years, China will invade Taiwan.
And I think the likely outcome of that is Taiwan saying, "Okay, we'll just be we'll be a puppet."
Really?
Yeah, I don't think
they'll.
So? Yeah, I think most experts seem to think that Taiwan
are heavily against joining.
They are.
Population are.
I think China asked them a few years ago to just join and be like the one party, the one country, two systems, like Hong Kong, and they've
voted heavily against it.
But I think likely it is if the China invade, they can't defend, and they just. Yeah, I don't see a situation where, unless the US comes, if the US don't come to their help and it triggers World War III, which is the other likely outcome of it, then it will just be a Taiwanese saying.
I don't know, and this again, we are branching into hypothetical politics, which we don't really want to. But I agree. I do think, and I don't know if anyone ever would, but if for some reason you are listening to this podcast in like 5, 10 years, 20 years, and you're like listening back on this, interesting. These guys had no idea, but it's like. We feel like the story of what we've told about Xi Jinping is really interesting, really broad. But I feel like we're talking about it at a time. His status or popularity, famousness on the world stage throughout history is going to grow massively when this conflict, whatever it is, happens. He's going to become one of the most famous and important figures of the 21st century if he's not already. And we're talking about him just before we imagine
implosion.
it's going to happen.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it's a very
theoretically-
weird time to be talking about
theoretically,
it, basically.
we could have like given him the most glowing episode right now, which
Yeah.
we have done,
And he might be the most
next
hated
Hitler.
man. He's
Yeah.
like the 21st. He's like
Century
21st
Hitler.
century Hitler. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah, it's a very real possibility.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Anyway, that's it. What do you think?
Yeah, I find when we talk about a certain person and their background really interesting, and he is one of the most interesting
fascinating.
politicians that we have currently.
Yeah.
So yeah, really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
Sorry for getting political again, guys, and thank you all for listening to the 26th episode of Pint-Sized History and the end of season 2 of Pint-Sized History.
Yes.
We will be back for season 3. We're not stopping. We are really enjoying doing the podcast, and it's something Joe and I have really been enjoying since we started.
Yep.
But we just need a little bit of a break because
Not
it's
a long break, but just a short break.
It's coming. Joe's put his sunglasses on. It's coming up to summer.
Yeah, it's summertime, and I just want to get out there with my sunnies on and just chill out.
And a few crate beers.
Whoa! Thanks again for Crate for sponsoring us. We didn't have Crate in season 1, but in season 2, you've been with us from the beginning. I actually don't know when. What episode did we get it?
Episode 3, I think. Episode 4.
What?
It was the
Of season 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was Alexander the Great or Henry V or something.
I think it was Henry V. I think
So
that was
for
our
most
first.
of this season, for like the last 10 episodes or 12, we've had Crate Brewery as a sponsor. So we'd just like to say again, thank you very much.
Go
You've been
thank
great.
them, buy their beers,
Yeah.
Pint-Size 15. Thank you all for
Pint-Size
watching. We'll
15.
see you in season 3. We love you all so much. Like, follow, review, comment, subscribe, everything. Joe, any last words?
Bye.
Bye.